is given a green margarita, which concerns me, but okay.
Oh.
And they start talking about Star Wars, and people apparently tell Reed that he looks like Han Solo.
Oh yeah, it would have just come out.
Yeah,
Back
it would
then.
have just come out,
There you
right?
go. New movie.
So, yeah, new movie makes sense for the time that we are set in.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, they're like, all right, we're going to say what we bench. And then they go 1, 2, 3. Neither of them say it. Classic.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Meanwhile, this week I am joined by fellow actor, my friend, and someone I have had the pleasure to do multiple shows with, Jack McCann. Jack, how are you doing?
I'm great, thank you. Yeah, just chill. It's 10:15 here in London, and yeah, it's great. PM. So yeah, a
PM.
great time.
Wonderful. Yeah. Jack is one of those aforementioned friends who wouldn't get as mad at me, but like was surprised at me when I hadn't seen a lot of films.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. It happens.
So, but yeah, Jack and I have done like 4 or 5 projects together over the
Yeah,
years.
it's been quite a few. They've added up now. I think they've added up.
They've added up.
Yeah.
It became a thing where we would just work for the same little company, and it would be a group
Yeah.
of us that were putting on shows.
Yeah.
And every now and again, we would just show up and be like, "Oh, hello! Like you're
Yeah,
involved in this
exactly.
too. Let's
We've
go."
all kind of swapped in and out, so it's one of those ones.
It was one of those ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm so excited that you are here. I'm very excited to talk about this film. I don't know much about this film. This was just recommended to me by the guest that we will have in 2 weeks' time, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay.
To be mentioned. And then I reached out to you asking, "Have you seen this?" And you were
Yeah.
like, "This one?" And I was like, "Yes." And you were like, "Yeah, I've seen it. It's a good fun."
It
So
was recommended. That's interesting.
it was recommended.
Okay,
Ladies and
cool.
gentlemen, we are talking about Boogie Nights.
Hmm.
Now, before I get into what I actually know about this film, Jack, do you remember when you first saw this film? What you thought about this film? What were your initial thoughts of this film?
So I was like kind of intrigued. I think so. We've got this channel in the UK that's called Film 4, and they do like films like late at night, and they do the kind of slightly like crazier ones like late at night. And I think it was like I'd maybe got home from a night out or something like that. And I was like, oh, there's some like quite big names in this. Like, obviously Julianne Moore's in it, and like Mark Wahlberg's in it. So I was like, oh, okay, whatever. And then it was like about porn, and I was like, huh, okay. So yeah, but like quite a long time ago. But yeah, I remember being intrigued about it. So
Fair enough. Yeah. I know 3 things about this movie going
Okay.
into it.
Okay.
1, it is about the adult film industry.
Yes.
So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that's what we're going to be discussing for the next 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Strap in. It does seem like a legitimately interesting script, though. I will give it that. From what I have seen so far, it does seem like a legitimately interesting script.
Yeah, and there's like heavy, like we said, like there's like heavy hitters actors in it, like Philip Seymour Hoffman's in it as well. Like there's like some proper William H Macy's in it, I think, as well, right?
I don't know. I specifically don't look up anything other than the runtime before I watch one of these films. I look up 2 things of information. 1, the runtime. 2, where can I potentially watch it?
Cool. Fair
to
enough.
avoid any spoilers.
Yeah.
I just don't want to accidentally read anything.
Oh, okay.
So,
fair enough.
number 1, it's about the adult film industry.
Yes.
Number 2, it has Mark Wahlberg. I think it might be his first big hit.
Yeah, it's from 1997. So
Okay.
yeah.
So
probably.
the film is from when I came out.
Oh, there you go. See. There you
Yeah. No, from when I was born. What did I just say?
When you came out, I got. I got you, man.
Words are hard, ladies and gentlemen. Words are hard.
It's okay. It's okay. These things happen.
It's from when I was born, and I think it has turned into a cult classic over the years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are the 3 things I know.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah.
Good.
Not a whole lot. It starts off with some trombones. They're playing kind of a very interesting intro. I'm like, this is an interesting intro to the
Okay.
film. And then it just changes. The vibe is completely different. We got some fun music, and we're at a movie theater, and it's showing Boogie Nights. So my first question right off the bat, is Boogie Nights the name of the film that we are watching, but there is also canonically a film named Boogie Nights in the film Boogie Nights?
Maybe because I think there's like a musical called Boogie Nights as well. Because when I remember like a operatic society where I lived being like, we're doing Boogie Nights, and they were like, not that one. Oh my god! So I think there's like an original, more like maybe like 70s boogie, whereas this one's about porn. So I think they were like, we're not doing the porn one, just so you know. Yeah. So, but I don't really know how to
Okay.
pronounce it. So the original one.
Sure. Yeah, I didn't know that there was an original one. So, like, cool. And I mean, we are set in the 1970s. So
Yeah,
that does track. It might be the original one. And
maybe.
we are in San Fernando Valley in 1997. Or, sorry, 1977. The
Yes.
film is out in 1997.
Yeah.
Film is set 1977.
Yeah.
And we see some people, they're trying to cut the line. Maurice ain't having it. And then Jack and Amber show up, and Maurice is like, oh, welcome. They seem like regulars and
Mhm.
high rollers. Apparently they were on vacation. Maurice is like, I missed you. And I was like, Maurice, I recognize the actor. Great actor. Don't know what I recognize him from
Mhm.
off the top of my head.
Okay.
I wish I knew his name.
I can
I
Google it.
don't. All right, sounds good. I will continue explaining who Maurice is.
Okay.
So Maurice tells Jack, to put him in a movie. It'll be a box office hit. And Jack's just like, yeah, whatever. Maurice is the owner of this club that we have entered. And he sends some clams over to Jack and Amber just on the house. And it's like, he's just really, helping out Jack and Amber. So he takes care of his high rollers and his regulars. Maurice moves around, seeing some others, charming his way around. He's
Mhm.
called a charmer by Amber. Do you have the name?
It is Luis Guzman.
He's fantastic. I've seen him in a lot of other things, and
Yeah,
he's always good.
I think he plays like tough guys.
He plays like tough guys or comedic guys.
Yeah, true, true.
Um, and he does it. We also see a young Don Cheadle in a
Yeah,
cowboy outfit.
yes,
Um, and I was like, "Oh, he's a cowboy." And then they were like, "The outfit," and I was like, "Okay, well, he's dressed like a cowboy."
yeah, yeah,
um, I thought he was a cowboy. He ain't.
yeah.
Then a roller girl skates up to Jack and Amber. Amber asks if roller girl has called the girl today. She forgot. And Amber's just like, well, if you don't do it tomorrow, it'll be the weekend and you'll never see her again. I have no idea what's going on. I'm intrigued. Who does Roller Girl need to go call? What's going on, Roller Girl?
I
Do we
think
ever
it's
find this out?
I think it's new talent. It's supposed to be kind of like the golden. I think it's like the golden age of like porn, kind of back in the 70s when it's kind of like sort of quite glamorous in a way. I think. Um,
Mm,
yeah,
okay.
and it's all in kind of California, that kind of beachy, like Farrah Fawcett kind of vibe, like that kind of Malibu, like glamour kind of thing. That's kind of the vibe I got from the movie.
Cool. That makes sense. Yeah, it seems like it is very much like, hey, like this is a huge industry.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to break into this industry right now. And kind of that's the deal. And not, it wasn't accessible to everybody to break into the industry
Mm.
at this time. So Roller Girl's like, I need to pee. And Amber's just like, then go. And so she skates off. And
Hmm.
young Mark Wahlberg, he's a busboy.
Yes.
Just wanted to point this out. Impressive that from when we see Boogie Nights on that
Hmm.
screen to now, it's about like the first 3 minutes of the film, and it's all just a single take.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's clever.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's all just a single take and like really cool camera work. So like really well done. I
Mm.
love single take shots, and I
Yeah, it's
also
cool, isn't it?
recognize how difficult they are to do. So,
Yes. Yeah, no, that's true. That is
because
true.
everything has to be cued at the right time to go at the right
Mm.
time. Everyone has to hit it. Like, there's a lot that goes into a single take.
Yeah, it is.
So, yeah.
Hmm.
So Jack notices Mark, and Mark sees Jack staring at him. Currently his name is Mark until we learn his name. So
Hmm.
I was like, oh, Jack's the adult film producer, isn't he? That's what
Mm.
he does. And then there's a man with a mullet, and he notices Jack. He heads over. This man is named Little Bill. Everyone calls him Little Bill. I don't know why they call him Little Bill, but I can
Okay.
take a guess.
Mm-hmm.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't figured out the guess, it's okay. Move on. We can just
Mm.
call him Bill. Um, so Bill wants to confirm that they are on for the day after tomorrow for the shoot. And Jack's like, well, it's more like the day after tomorrow. And Bill's like, come on, I got to call Rocky, Scotty, Kurt, the guys. And Jack's like, look, I just want a small crew. And Bill's like, all right, fine, small crew, but do you have a script? And Jack just walks away to the kitchen. And I'm just like, fantastic from Jack. Just like, I don't want to deal with you.
Mm.
So he's looking for Mark. He finds Mark. He's washing dishes. And Jack's just like, how you doing? And Mark's just like, do you want to see my work permit? Like, I have a work permit, because Jack asks how old he is. And it's just like, no, nothing like that. But he just wants to know how long he's been working there. Mark Wahlberg has been there a month. Maurice gave him the job. And he is from Torrance, and he takes the bus in. So don't know much about like California geography, but I do know that the California public transit, trash.
Mm. And I'm guessing he's from like a small town. It's kind of like the bright lights of Hollywood, I guess, are calling him.
Well, they're in Reseda, which
Okay.
from what I know is like a more upscale neighborhood
Okay.
near LA.
Okay.
And I mainly know that because of the Karate Kid and Cobra Kai.
Oh, okay.
At least I think I have that right.
Right, okay, yeah.
That it is a bit more upscale. I might be wrong,
Okay.
but yeah, I think it's a bit more upscale.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And so I don't really know how far Torrance is, but Jack's just like, you can't do a job like this near Torrance, like significantly closer, and he can, but he
Mm-hmm.
just doesn't want to. And then Mark Wahlberg just goes, all right, 5 or 10? And Jack's just like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, it's 5 to see me jack off, and it's 5 to just see it. And Jack's just like, I'm good. Just politely declines. We learned that Mark Wahlberg, his character, is named Eddie Adams. So Eddie knows who Jack is. He read about him in a magazine once. Jack is a filmmaker of adult films. And Jack asks if he wants to come to the table, join him for a drink. And Eddie's like, I can't. I need to work.
Mm.
And Jack's like, I get it. Work, get money, pay rent. And Eddie's like, no, I just need the money, but I don't pay rent. I live at home. Eddie, we find out, is 17 and apparently a piece of gold, according to Jack. Jack, you're coming off as a creep.
Mm. That kind of industry.
Yeah. It doesn't surprise me, but like, dude, you're coming off as a creep. You just called a 17-year-old a piece of gold.
Yeah.
And Eddie says that he appreciates the offer, but he couldn't walk out on Maurice. So Eddie's got a bit of a backbone. Good to know. That he's just like, look, like if I've committed to something, I'm going to follow through with it. So
Yeah.
I hope this stays.
Mm.
I hope this stays. I don't know. Jack understands. He starts to leave. But as he's leaving, he says, I bet there is something underneath those jeans that just can't wait to get out. What did I get myself into?
Well, it is going to be about porno. So it was going to come up.
Again, I didn't fully know what I was getting myself into. I'm questioning my friendships.
Well, there is some like, so this is well, so I know that with a lot of movies, there's some like filming thing where like you can show a penis soft, but you can't show it at attention, apparently, like on film. Obviously, unless it's like porn, but like a normal cinematic film, apparently there's some like thing about it. I can't remember what it is, but you can show a soft one. That's what I heard.
Sure.
So
this is not something I have ever looked up, nor have ever felt the need to look up.
Well, there you go.
Listeners, congratulations. You are getting a lesson today.
There you go. But I think it's also that kind of glamorous, like, yeah, like we're saying, like kind of golden age of it as well. Because like also it's kind of a sort of similar time. I know that's kind of also 60s and 70s, the kind of like Playboy time as well, with like Hugh
Mm-hmm.
Hefner and kind of the like women and kind of glamorous women and, you know, his like girlfriends and him being, you know, shock of the heat and that to be a creep as well. So yeah.
Oh no.
So
Who could
yeah.
have guessed? I
But
mean,
that
I
kind of
feel like I
glamorous,
probably should have seen him being a creep.
yeah, true. But that
Yeah,
kind of glamorous life in Hollywood, I guess, in kind
I
of
guess so.
California. So
Yeah. The 70s, a wild
yeah,
time, I
there you
guess.
go.
I guess.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it's, later that night, Eddie leaves. Jack and Amber get home. Amber heads to bed. Jack has a very lavish place and he starts to pour himself a nightcap. Someone does a line of coke. I'm not completely sure who. I think it's Amber. Amber calls someone named Tom and she's looking for Andy. And Amber's like, I just want to say hello to my son. And Amber, I'm guessing, is not allowed to say hello to Andy,
Hmm.
because then she gets mad and starts threatening Tom. And she's like, I know a lawyer. I'll take you to court. And I was like, okay. Amber, obviously not well put together. Pretty sure the line of drugs was her earlier.
Yeah.
And um, we then see that just Tom hangs up on Amber and Amber's just left dejected,
Hmm.
which fair enough. So, meanwhile, Bill makes it home, and his place significantly less lavish. It's just like an apartment.
Hmm.
And he shuts off the TV, which is left on in static, and he sits down, he tosses off his shoes, then he goes to the room and he sees that someone is sleeping with his wife, and
Yes.
the dude sleeping with Bill's wife is just like, will you close the door? And Bill's like, no, I'm not going to close the door. That's my wife. And he's like, oh, sorry, man. And then, like, the wife's just like, Bill, just go sleep on the couch.
Mm.
Like, poor Bill.
Yeah. Um, as you can imagine, that's kind of a recurring theme. That's not a spoiler, but yeah.
I mean, considering I see it again, I figured it's just consistent.
Yes. I think they're not in it's not a very stable marriage, let's say. Yeah. The kind of promiscuity of the kind of free love, I suppose, like kind of the summer of love has sort of just passed. Like it's like 10 years later, but it's kind of still the vibes there. Everyone's just living
Yeah.
their lives, you know, young, free, and I don't know, not single, but I guess
Not single, but free.
true.
Because, not gonna lie, the wife doesn't look super young, neither does Bill.
Well, there you go, there you go.
So,
Yeah,
yeah. Eddie gets home and in his room, classic 17-year-old kid has pictures of girls and superheroes and Al Pacino and Bruce Lee and
yeah,
cars. Well-rounded interests.
yeah, yeah. Pretty classic.
Pretty classic. And then so as we're seeing all these posters, we then see Eddie checking himself out in a mirror in just his underwear and like making those like flexing poses that like I'm pretty sure every single person has probably done.
Yeah,
Um and like, flexed in the mirror and then like he's like punching at the mirror like, if you've gone through puberty, you have probably done that at
yeah,
some point in your
yeah,
life. And if you haven't gone through puberty, thank you for listening to this podcast, but maybe you shouldn't be listening to these 4 episodes.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Come back in a month.
yeah. But yeah, he I don't know, because it's that kind of interesting, like sort of how there's that kind of weird thing of like how body types have changed, like over time, like kind of how
Mm-hmm.
men like being really like shredded. If you look at men from the 50s, they look kind of sort of more like regular, I guess. The fun fact is the member is not real. But apparently, according to an interview on Jimmy Kimmel or something, Mark Wahlberg said that you got to keep it. So that's kind of fun.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
The prosthetic. So I was like, that's kind of cool. Why not?
Cool. Why not? He wore it.
Yeah, exactly. It's a bit like
Exactly.
apparently Rami Malek kept his Freddie Mercury teeth.
Yeah, yeah,
Why
yeah.
not?
I did hear about that.
Why not?
Why not?
So yeah.
So next morning, it's breakfast. Breakfast is cooking. Eddie's mom is cooking. He's eating. And Eddie's dad walks in, kisses the mom, and mom tells the dad, "Shave if you're gonna kiss me." Scratches my face, and I was like, not a stable marriage. Um,
Well,
no.
I think
Spoiler alert. No.
I think it's that classic thing of like that kind of old-fashioned thing of sort of women still at that time were very sort of reliant on a man. So I think obviously probably
Yeah.
quite a lot of them were trapped in probably not very happy or maybe loveless, some would say, marriages. Because you couldn't.
Yeah.
It's something along the lines of like you had to, your husband had to sign for a credit card, something like that. So you couldn't have a credit card. Your husband had to sign for it, even in like as late as the 70s. So
That's wild.
yeah, so
Yeah. I
probably
mean,
women were probably
fair.
quite a lot had to be sort of reliant on men back in those days.
Mhm.
So
But it also kind of felt like the dad was trying and the mom was the one that was like, "I'm done." Like, it
yeah,
wasn't like the dad fell out of love, it was like the mom fell out of
yeah,
love, is
exactly.
what I got. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, mom's like, "Look, if you really wanna work at a nightclub, you should find one that's closer," and
hmm
Eddie's like, "Well, I need to get to work, it's a car wash." And mom's upset that it's a car wash, a nightclub, "Did school ever occur to you?" Eddie just finishes eating, says bye to dad, heads out the door.
hmm
Cool. Simple, quick, but it's put together very quickly that Eddie and his mom don't really have a good relationship.
Yes, yes, that was the vibe that I got.
Yeah, it's a pesky one.
Mm.
So we meet Buck properly now. This
hmm
is young Don Cheadle, and he's
Yes.
selling stereos, and he's trying to get a man that can buy one that can handle bass, and says, you need bass in this system if you want to handle what he wants. It is hi-fi, high fidelity, the highest level of fidelity, very important in a stereo system,
hmm
and I'm just like, so spewing nonsense.
Basically,
That
yeah,
is
to
how
try
we
and
are
do a hard
selling a
sell.
stereo today.
Yeah, the hard sell.
The customer's hesitant because the price is 420. Very valid.
Wow.
$420 now is a lot of money, let
Yeah,
alone a stereo in the 1970s.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um, like, I can't get myself 300 to spend on a used PS5 potentially. Like,
Well,
no,
yeah,
no, no.
exactly.
420 is still a good chunk of money.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so Buck definitely starts lying, and he's like, "I have this unit at home, and it's modified. Gives 3 to 4 quads up per channel. Very technical talk. Doesn't concern
Mm-hmm.
you."
Mm.
And I'm just like, "Do you even know what you're talking about?"
Well, I mean, he's probably just trying to do the hard sell. Everyone's just trying to make a buck, I guess.
Make a buck.
Yeah.
Don says that, you know what, you need a test drive of the TK 421, and he pops in an A track, and it's banjo music, and he's like, "You hear that bass? You hear how it kicks?" And I was just like, "It's a banjo solo. There's very limited bass when it comes to a banjo solo."
Yeah. So not very prepared salesman, I feel like.
No,
Yeah.
no. The customer just is like, "Thanks, I'm gonna
Yeah.
head out," and leaves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, fair enough. He didn't sell it to me either.
Fair. No, there you go. See.
Yeah. Wasn't a good sales pitch.
No.
Buck's boss comes over and he's like, "What was that?" And Buck's like, "What? I didn't do anything." And apparently the boss has told him multiple times not to put on that country western music. If he does, nobody's going to buy a stereo.
Right.
And Jerry's just like, "What kind of brother are you listening to that music?"
hmm
And Buck starts to interrupt Jerry, but Jerry just continues, and he explains that he only gave him the job because he thought his acting stuff might bring in some nice pussy into the place,
Yeah.
as he says. Very outdated way to talk about people, ladies and gentlemen. Don't talk about them like that.
Mm.
But this was the 1970s,
Yeah. Yeah.
and this was the quote.
No, fair enough. Yeah.
But yeah, apparently it has, but he just can't have any more.
Oh, okay. Fine. Fair enough.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Jerry's like, "Look, you've done job 1, but now I actually need you to sell some stereos.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so he just like is like, all right, fine, like go to the back and load the truck.
Mm-hmm.
So we're at school and it's finals day, and we see a young girl, and I was like, I'm not 100% sure because it was fleeting, but I think this is Roller Girl.
Mm-hmm.
Spoiler alert, it is. I don't know what class they're in. I'm wondering what class they're in. But whatever class they're in, they are covering chapter 17 through 28, which feels like it's more of a unit exam rather than a final exam.
Oh. Roller Girl is played by Heather Graham, if anyone wanted to know that as a fun fact as well.
Oh, cool.
Heavy
I
hitters.
know she's been
Heavy hitters in this movie.
She's been in a lot of other things too.
Yeah.
I recognize
Yeah,
her
yeah.
name, but like I just can't place what she's been in off the top of my head.
You recognize her face?
Yeah, like I definitely recognize her face. I know that I've seen other things that she has been in as well. Just can't tell you what it is.
Fair.
Ladies and gentlemen, 1, not only have I not seen films, 2, I am also really bad at names and faces, and like combining the two. So, yeah.
If you get to a point where you're like, hey, that's the guy from da-da-da, or that's the girl from then you can kind of, that's like a better point to get to. So that'd be fine. People will know what you mean.
I'm working my way there.
Yeah.
Slowly. I know some.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know all. Like, I know who Heather Graham is.
Yeah.
Can't tell you what she's been in.
Okay.
Like, I just don't know her film work.
Don't know her body of work. Fair enough.
Yeah, I just don't know her body of work off the top of my head. You give me someone like Tom Hanks, I can name some things.
Yeah,
You give me someone like Mark Wahlberg, I can name some things. Like, you know, you give me certain actors, I can name some things.
Yeah.
Certain actors, I just don't know their body of work. I'm sorry. Like, there's a lot of useless information in my head.
That's okay.
So
Mark Wahlberg of Wahlburgers fame. What else was she?
I'm sorry, what?
Wahlburgers?
Like that's burgers?
His franchise, and his brother runs it. Apparently, I think he just
pumped. Is it a burger joint?
Yeah, called Wahlburgers. I don't know if it was successful.
Okay.
She was in Heather Graham. She's in like Hangover.
Haven't seen it.
Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me.
Haven't seen it.
Twin Peaks. Yeah. Oh, Scrubs.
Scrubs. I've seen episodes here and there.
Yeah, so she's done a lot. And
I'm trying to figure out what it was that I saw her in, but I do not know.
Fair enough.
Yeah. It might have just been like she's guest starred on things.
Maybe, yeah.
And I just know, like, I know who she is because she's still like a big name in the industry.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just don't know what I have seen her randomly guest star in. Like, there's so many actors like that.
Yeah.
Where I'm like,
yeah.
Oh, I know your face.
Yeah,
100%. I know your face.
Yeah.
And then I'll go look at like their discography, and I'm just like, I haven't seen anything that you have been in. Right. Why do I know your face?
Yeah, no, fair enough. Yeah.
And it's just, I've seen them in some random guest star role in some random TV show.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, great, like, I've seen you in that, and that's why I know who you are.
Okay.
So, anyway, we're at finals, right? Okay. And the girl is looking very uninterested in the test, like doesn't even know where to begin. She's just looking at the test, and she looks up, and there is a guy in the class miming lewd gestures of, blowjob to her, and she looks like she is going to cry, and then he starts kind of mouthing something to her, but I couldn't really place what it was. Do you know what he was mouthing to her?
I can't remember. Like,
okay. Yeah, I just he was mouthing words, but the words he was mouthing weren't clear on what they were. It was probably something that had to do with sexual pleasures. in some way,
Blow
shape, or
me,
form.
that kind of thing.
Yeah, something. It was like, I think I put together and then that was it. And then there were like 2 or 3 more words after that. I couldn't fully tell what it was. And she looks like she is going to cry. She gets up and she rolls out of class because she still has skates and she's allowed to wear skates at school. I don't know what type of school this is that would just allow her to wear skates.
Hey, different times.
Different times. Would your school allow a kid to wear skates?
Absolutely not. Health and safety. Health and safety. Absolutely not. No.
Look, your school now, health and safety, it's just like, I'm sorry, we can't have monkey bars on the playground.
Well, exactly.
Why? Well, if a kid slips and falls, they can hurt themselves. If a kid slips and falls off the monkey bars, then that's on them. They're supposed to be able to hold up their own body weight.
Exactly. There's probably a kid who's allergic to monkey bars or something as well. Like, there's probably something that's been like made up.
Dude, I've heard that they're getting rid of like merry-go-rounds on playgrounds because
like
kids
dangerous.
will spin too much, get dizzy, and then be dizzy. That's the whole point of a merry-go-round. It builds character.
Exactly. Well, there you go. It's, you know, it's but yeah, builds character, and I think stamina as well, actually, to kind of, you know. But it's like, because I think it's like these people they're like from just high school, and they're sort of being almost like preyed upon in a way. So like, because I think sometimes with like, you know, kind of like porn stuff, and they're like, oh, I'm only 18, and it's like, I don't know. It's people who like look really young, I guess. And there's like a big tangent. This is like a bit of a tangent, but recently there was a thing about an adult actor, should we say, and he would always perform with people who looked very, very young, and it came out that actually there was some kind of more sinister stuff going on behind the scenes, so it's kind of interesting. Yes, so it was in kind of recently. So
I did find it weird that, like, you know, Eddie's 17.
Mm-hmm.
This girl is 17, maybe 18 at best.
Yeah.
Right? Like, also very young.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, she rolls out, and then you know, we cut and we're with Eddie, and he's sleeping with a girl, and she wants it bad, and so he starts joking around with her, and then he doesn't actually fully sleep with her in this moment. He just starts jumping on the bed and goofing off. Fair enough. He's a 17-year-old kid, and she's just like, Eddie, do you know how good you are at making love to me? And he's like, well, everyone has given one special thing, and I understand that this is my special thing. And I'm like, again, what have I gotten myself into?
Yeah.
It's questioning life choices here.
Yeah, I think it's like for porn, there's like an kind of average apparently, which is obviously it's way above the like normal average. But I think again, it's like the kind of unrealistic expectations for men as well as women. So kind of the body standards, they're kind of unequal for everyone basically. So some men are quite insecure about sort of size because of these men who've got like these insane, you know, I don't know.
And sometimes it's also prosthetics.
Well, exactly. But also, well, like, I don't know, like not to, you know, but I mean, well, we're talking about a film about porn, so hey, realistically, it's one of those things where, like, actually in real life, you know, I have heard, you know, girls and gays, like the huge ones, they can be quite painful. So actually, it's more fantasy versus reality, you know, happens.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, Eddie's just like, look, I plan on being a bright, big, shining star.
Yeah.
And then he heads out. So we're going to take a quick intermission break and chat about some stuff in a break, and then we will be right back. Hello, everyone. I hope you are all enjoying this episode of Post Finale. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. And if you enjoy the episode and you are having a good time, please make sure to hit the subscribe button if you're listening on YouTube, and hit that like button. And please be sure to follow the show if you're listening on any other app like Spotify, Apple Music, etc. It doesn't matter where you're listening for us. It just means so much that you are listening to this episode. And thank you all so much. It really does help out the show and the channel. So thank you all very much for tuning in. Now, if you are enjoying the content and you want to gain access to more content, you can do so by signing up for our Patreon. And speaking of Patreon, we have an update for our patrons. And the update is that Lucy Sadler, thank you so much for upgrading to production manager. It really means a lot to us. Thank you so much. And for anyone else that wants to sign up, gain access to bonus content, you can see tier lists, you can see notes that we have, some bonus videos, some bonus audios, different things like that. You can suggest films that we do. All sorts of things like that can be found on our Patreon, which you can find at patreon.com/coopforge. So that's patreon.com/CO_OPFORGE. And thank you so much to anyone who is even considering this. It really does help us out a lot, and thank you. Now, be sure to also follow us on social media for Post Finale. You can find us at Post Finale Pod on Instagram and Facebook. And you can also follow Co-op Forge, where we post a lot of content as well, not just about Post Finale, but for all the shows that we host here on Co-op Forge. So that includes Seattle Across the Pond, and that includes Flip the Scripts. So if you want to follow that one on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, it is at Co-op Forge. So at CO_OPFORGE. And it really does help. The best way to help the show in a non-monetary way, if you want to do that too, is just to talk about the show. Word of mouth is the best way to help grow the show. Just reach out to a friend and be like, hey, you love films, or hey, I know that you need a reason to watch more films. Check out this show where the host is an actor who hasn't seen anything and he's confused most of the time on what's going on. It's silly. It's a fun time. He's really humble. It's a fun, great way to help the show grow. And talk about us on social media. It really, really does help. Thank you all so much to anyone who has done this in the past, anyone who will do this in the future. It really does mean the world to us. But that's enough of me rambling on. Once again, if you want to follow us on social media, it's at Post Finale Pod and at Co-op Forge, CO_OPFORGE. And if you want to sign up for the Patreon, again, there is zero pressure to do so. Listening to the show means so much to us. But if you want to do that, it can be found at patreon.com/coopforge. So that's patreon.com/CO_OPFORGE. And let's get back to the show. Back. And Roller Girl rolls up to Jack, and Jack whispers something in her ear, and we're back at the nightclub, by the way. And Roller Girl goes to the back. She gets Eddie. She takes him to the back room, unzips his pants, and gives him oral sex. We do cut away before any of that happens, but she unzips his pants, and then we cut away. Mm-hmm. And, later on that night, Eddie is walking out, and Jack offers him a ride. Roller Girl is also in the car, and she asks if he remembers her from a couple hours ago, and he's like, yeah. Mm-hmm. And she's like, well, you should come with us. And so he's like, oh, okay. Also, fair enough. If that happened to a 17-year-old, he's not going to forget you from a couple hours ago.
Well, exactly. Yeah, true.
So, yeah. They head to a diner, and the gang is there. It's Roller Girl, Eddie, Amber, and Jack. And Jack is telling Eddie that it takes a lot of money to make one of these films. Mm-hmm. After camera, film, lights, sound, lab coats, development, syncing, editing. Before a turnaround, you've already spent $20 to $30K on a movie. Mm. And if it's a good movie, there is no end to the money that you can make. Meanwhile, Amber's just making eyes at Eddie the whole time, and I'm like, aren't you kind of with Jack? But also, I guess you're not with Jack. I don't know. This is weird. I have no idea what is happening in terms of relationships in this film. Mm-hmm. So...
yeah. I think it's like a wider thing as well that kind of, there's some kind of porn stars who kind of say that, like, because kind of sex is your job, then when it comes to, like, real life... it's kind of not the same in a way. And there's kind of like, I don't know, there's kind of like porn sex that's kind of like things that you need to think about, and then like real life where you don't need to think about it, which is interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, fair. This is not something that like I have read a lot about, so it's good to hear things. I like how you did your research before you came on here. You were like, all right,
Well, funnily enough,
I'm talking about this.
yeah, so when I was at actually, this is really weird, but when I was at university, we did, it was like a kind of neurology report on like porn on the effects of the brain. So it's like the kind of dopamine that you kind of, it's sort of almost like a drug, like a drugs habit. So like you kind of seek out, you know, something, and then you kind of have that dopamine hit, and then if you do it a lot, the dopamine hit gets weakened. So then if you were a drug addict, you go for something that's kind of harder drugs, whereas for like a porn addiction, you go for something that's more extreme. And then, you know, and then it kind of gets to the point where like it's kind of not the sort of like regular stuff. It's kind of something that's more extreme, and then you're kind of going to sort of the dark web, and it's like a whole thing. So it was kind of this, I learned some stuff that was interesting.
See, you are using what you learned in school.
There you go. That was university, not the current school I work at. Just...
Oh, I'm sorry. University.
Yes, university.
The degree was worth it,
It was
just so that you
it.
could come on this podcast
Exactly.
and divulge us with this information.
Yeah. But also as well, because it's kind of the time that was like, obviously before internet. So kind of people they're making like videotapes that you have to buy in a physical store, or like order it from like, I don't know, a catalogue, I guess. I don't know what you would have done. But yeah, it's that kind of thing that's quite interesting. So.
It's interesting, yeah. Jack says that he understands he needs to get people into the theater, but then he doesn't want to make a film where they sit down, pleasure themselves, get up, and leave before the story ends. His dream is to make a film that the story sucks them in, so after they finish their business, people just have to sit in it and wait for the film to end because they are so invested into the story. And I'm like, I can respect that. He is a filmmaker at heart. He just also understood it's significantly easier to make money this way.
But I feel like normally the story bit comes before, because they know that people just skip through it.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was different in the 70s.
Maybe, because I did see a thing. It was like, again, on my weird research for this project at university, about a guy, and he was like, the hardest bit is learning lines, and I was like, that's the most difficult part.
Okay. That's the easiest bit for. Well, that's not easy by any means, but it's one of the easier bits for us.
Well, exactly, but yeah, but for him it was difficult. So
yeah. My favorite is when people ask me, they're like, how do you learn so many lines? And I'm like, I don't know. How do you learn how to code in 8 different languages?
Well, yeah, exactly. Just how people's brains work differently, I guess.
Yeah, like I can't explain it. I do it a lot. And so I have figured out some tricks that help me get them down quicker.
Yeah.
And there are times where I get frustrated and want to throw the script across the room.
Well, no, that's true.
And there are times I have thrown the script across the room.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly.
So, yeah,
but it's happened. Kind of as well is kind of the discussion of the kind of commodification of sex in a way. So like obviously because these two 17-year-olds, they kind of don't realise what you put out there. I suppose kind of, you know, less so in the days pre-internet, but how a lot of that stuff is like forever, you know? So
I mean, yeah. So Jack finished up, he says that his dream is to make a film that is true and right and dramatic. Cool. Sounds good. Maybe this is the film that we will see later. I don't know. Maybe it's the film that he convinces Eddie to be in. I'm still confused on what's going on. Everyone's at Jack's house. Amber heads off to bed and gives both Eddie and Jack a full-fledged goodnight kiss. And Amber is a mother to all those who need love, is what Jack says. Aw, isn't that sweet? What about her own son?
Well, I think there's maybe some issues there.
Just a couple?
Yes.
In her defense, she did try to talk to him.
Well, yeah, true.
She was just also on drugs.
So I can't remember, but there's that like classic movie trope. There's another movie that I'll was going to mention later, where it's like that classic thing where they ring their family member, and then they're like, "Hello," and the family member's on the other end just listening, and they just don't answer and put the phone down. Like, you've seen that a few times in different movies. It's like a
Oh yeah,
trope.
yeah. I know the trope that you're talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah. There's
It does
another
kind of feel like
movie.
that.
There's another
I mean,
movie where that happens as well, because the main character is in the adult industry, and then it's her family's reaction. Yeah.
oh, okay.
Mm.
Interesting. Yeah, why not?
It's like a similar
Jack
vein
tells Eddie
of the
that,
time.
you know, he wants to be in business with him.
Mm.
Cool. Yeah. So Jack tells Eddie he wants to be in business with him, and Eddie is asked, you know, what do you think of Roller Girl? And he's like, oh, she's great. And Jack's like, well, would you like to do it? And Eddie's just like, sex? Yeah. Meanwhile, Roller Girl, busy looking for some limes.
Classic.
Fantastic. I have no context of why she wants limes. She wants limes.
Mojito?
Jack, it's very possible. Not completely sure. So Jack asks Roller Girl to sit on the couch with Eddie, and she just says, oh, sweet, here we go. And it's just like, oh, yes. What?
Yeah. Well, I guess you kind of
Just
don't
so
have
straightforward.
any. You don't have any inhibitions, I suppose. It's a bit like the idea of kind of like a very intimate act of sex in front of loads of people. It just, for most, mere mortals, it's quite like a sort of, but I suppose maybe if you're that way inclined, you like showing off, I suppose. Who knows?
I guess so.
Mm.
I mean, Roller Girl says, hold on. She puts on some music, pulls her clothes off, and then climbs onto Eddie. And Eddie asks about the skates, and she's like, I don't take off the skates. And he's like, okay. And Jack just sits and watches. And we fade out on Jack sitting in a chair, and we fade into Eddie's mom waiting up for him. Great fade in, fade out. Fantastic scene transition. And she's asking where he was. Eddie's like, nowhere. And mom just tells him to shut up and asks if he was with Cheryl Lynn. And Eddie's like, no, I wasn't with her. And then, mom accuses him of having a girlfriend. And he's like, no, it's like, she's not my girlfriend. Mom calls her a whore, a piece of trash. And Eddie is not the only one that she sees. Eddie's like, why would you even say something like that? Like, what is wrong with you, mother? And the mom's just like, look, I know that she's been here. I know what you do with her here. I'm the one that washes the sheets. And Eddie's like, you know what? Maybe I'll just leave, right? Mom is saying that he can't do anything. He's a loser. He always will be a loser. He couldn't even finish high school because he was so stupid. And I was like, what a loving mother.
Yeah. Nothing like parental support.
Yeah. What a loving mother. Eddie says that he's going to go somewhere. He's going to do something. Maybe run away where she can never find him. And he goes to grab a few things. And the mom says, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm just grabbing a couple things. And she's like, well, none of this is yours. You never paid for it. None of this is yours. You leave here with what you've got. And the mom starts ripping up the posters on the wall and ripping them off, starts ripping them up, going absolutely ballistic on Eddie. Meanwhile, Dad is just sitting on his bed listening to all of this go down. I just feel bad for the dad.
Maybe he just feels like he can't stand up to the mum.
I definitely feel like that's what it is. Like, he just feels like he can't stand up to her.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to necessarily kick Eddie out.
Yeah.
But Mom has it in her brain that, like, Eddie's got to go.
Yeah. No, exactly.
So Eddie's obviously very upset about Mom ripping up his room and is like, why do you have to be so mean to me? And the mom's just like, I'm not being mean, but you, Eddie, are just too stupid to see it. And Eddie's like, all right, fine, I'm going. I'm going to be something. You don't know what I can be. I'm going to be something. Don't talk to me like that.
Yeah.
He grabs his mom. He slams her against the wall and then runs out of the house.
Yeah.
Incredible scene from the two actors.
Yeah.
Fantastic acting in that. Like, stakes were high
Yeah.
for both actors. You know, the stakes for Mom was like, he's got to get out of the house now or
Okay.
conform to my ways. And for Eddie, it was, I've got to leave now or
Yeah.
conform to her ways. Those are my two options.
Joanna Gleason.
Oh,
Oh, okay. She's the mum.
okay.
Got it. Okay.
Why do we know Joanna Gleason?
I don't know. I just kind of vaguely recognize her face.
Oh, I think she was in Frasier.
Yeah.
I think she's the... No, maybe not. She might not be. She just has a similar face. She also might be. I legitimately don't know.
I think I recognize her. I think she was in Friends. I recognize.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's a possibility.
Mm.
Let's see. She's in The Boys. Not the one that we are all thinking of.
Oh yeah.
A different Boys. Um, she is also in a movie called The Rebound.
Okay.
For the Love of Aaron. She's in Sex and the City, so maybe people know her from that.
Yeah.
So she's been in quite a few things over the years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just, another one of those actors where you don't necessarily always know what they're from, but you're just like,
True.
you've been around. You know
It's
what
like
you're
a
doing.
face you recognize. Yeah.
Yeah. Great acting from her in this
Yeah.
scene.
Nice.
Fantastic. Like, it was great.
Mm.
So Eddie makes it back to Jack's, and Jack is happy to see him. Jack introduces him to some people. Hey, look, it's a party at Jack's.
Nice.
We meet Buck, and we also meet Becky Barnett. Jack asks, if it is facha, and Buck's like, yeah, it's facha. And then as they start walking away, Buck's like, facha means face, right? Fantastic. Like, I love that Buck's like, yeah, I don't know what this means. Like, everyone's done it. It's classic.
Yeah. Another.
So,
That's John C. Reilly, I believe.
who?
John C. Reilly. He's like in like Step Brothers and like he's in.
Are you talking about Buck?
Yeah, I think so.
I thought Buck was Don Cheadle.
Oh. Who am I thinking of then?
At least I'm pretty sure Buck was Don Cheadle.
Yeah, I think it. Oh, no, it's Don Cheadle. He's someone else. He comes up later.
Oh, okay, cool. Then I won't look up John C. Reilly.
No.
So yeah, I was like, look, I recognize some people. So yeah, then we meet Reed Rothschild, again, an actor I have seen before. Do not know why.
That's John C. Reilly.
Oh, that's John C. Reilly.
There you
go. Okay.
I told
cool.
you it was going to come up.
Literally in the next line.
There you go.
So, Jack tells Eddie to stick around a while. Hey, Reed, make him a drink. So Reed starts making him a margarita. And as he's pouring, Eddie turns away. And so Reed just takes a swig from the bottle and then continues to pour. Fantastic. Great job. And then his pouring skills also on point because he's just like pouring and he's like, 2, 4, whatever.
Hey, whatever.
Hey, whatever. Fantastic measuring skills. All bartenders take notes.
Yeah.
So Reed asks what Eddie squats, and Eddie's like, I squat 200. And it's, the classic dick measuring contest. So, even though they literally could based on what they do for a living / what Eddie is going to soon be doing for a living, no. They have to talk about weights. So Reed's like, I bench 350. I squat 350. And Reed's like, have you ever been to Vince's? And Eddie's like, no, but I've always wanted to be there. And I'm like, does Vince's actually exist? Or is Reed just messing with them? We never get an answer.
Oh, okay.
At least so far, we don't have an answer.
Right, okay.
Yeah. Eddie is given a green margarita, which concerns me, but okay.
Oh.
And they start talking about Star Wars, and people apparently tell Reed that he looks like Han Solo.
Oh, yeah, it would have just come out.
Yeah,
Back
it would
then.
have just come out,
There you
right?
go. New movie.
So, yeah, new movie makes sense for the time that we are set in.
Hmm.
At the same time, uh, they're like, all right, we're going to say what we bench. And then they go 1, 2, 3. Neither of them say it. Classic.
Hmm.
Wonderful. Meanwhile, there's a high roller that pulls up, and it's an old guy, and we call him the Colonel, which the word Colonel has always pissed me off because it's spelled Colonel, and we pronounce it Colonel.
Yeah.
Where does the R come from?
Well, I found out recently that Colonel Sanders, the KFC guy, was a real person. I thought he was made up, but he's real.
No, he was a real person.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, yeah. But hey, your people created the English language. Where does the R come from?
Well, don't know.
Doing great. So, Colonel also has a lady friend with him. Lady friend is important shortly. So, there's another guy. He's in a very nice suit. He seems like the driver for the Colonel, or like he's with the Colonel. Meanwhile, Buck is upset that Jerry is telling him how to dress and asks what's wrong with it. Becky's just like, look, it's the cowboy look. It ended 6 years ago. Buck's like, it's coming back. And she's like, no, it is dead. Buck, get with the program. You need to learn how to dress. You need to get a new look. And then Buck's like, well, you need to get a new look too. And she's like, my look is fine. My look is chocolate love. Fair enough. It's a good look. Timeless. So Maurice just wants to be in some film because he's like, look, I have the the club and I can send home money, but I can't send something home to my brothers and just say, look at me and all the beautiful women I've been dealing with. And so he's imploring Amber to talk to Jack about him being in a movie. And I was like, this is never going to happen. This is just going to be the consistency of what is going on. Maurice is just going to keep begging to be in a film, and he's never going to get to, isn't he?
No.
So I was like, all right, sounds good. And Amber's like, all right, I'll see what I can do about it. It's not going to happen. She's not going to see what she can do about it. Buck grabs Maurice to talk to him. Meanwhile, the Colonel's lady friend has found a friend who is doing some coke and joins in. And Maurice is just in the background, and he's just like, nah, the cowboy look isn't dead. I don't know what she's talking about. Like, he's being a good friend. He's just like, it's okay, dude. You're dressing like a maniac, but, like, it's fine. So, another nice long one take. For a bit, right? Like from I think about Buck and Becky starting to talk, and then it continues on until we finish off this scene where people are swimming and they're having a good time. Reed gets on the diving board and he's like, I'm gonna do a full flip, and he does the flip and lands straight smack on his back. Painful. Classic. And he's like, you need to bring your legs all the way around. And Reed's just like, I know. Leave me alone. So Maurice and Buck are having a conversation in the kitchen. And, Maurice is just like, look, man, where would you dig? Right? And Buck's like, yeah, I should wear what I dig. And then the phone rings and it's someone looking for Maggie. And then when Maurice says your mother, I'm like, oh, this is her son calling for Amber, isn't it?
Oh.
At least this is my guess. I have no idea. But I'm guessing that it's the son calling for Amber. But Maurice is like, I don't know a Maggie. But then when he does hear that, it's a kid calling for his mother, he's just like, all right, like, let me go check. I might be wrong. Like, just stay on the line. Let me go see if I might be able to find your mom, right?
Oh,
so, like,
okay.
At least good guy Maurice is like, initially he's like, nah, there's no Maggie here. I don't know any Maggie. Buck doesn't know any Maggie. And, like, we know almost everybody here. But then when he realizes that it's a kid, Maurice is like, okay, like, fair. And then he tells Buck, like, watch the phone. Don't let anyone hang it up. Like, I'm going to go check. Good guy Maurice goes out, he starts asking around. He's like, Maggie, Maggie, like, is there a Maggie here? And then he does come back. He doesn't find a Maggie. And so he's like, hey, kid, I'm sorry. Like, I can't seem to find Maggie, so I don't think your mom is here. You know, sorry. And I'm guessing the kid's like, okay. And then he hangs up. And then and then Buck's like, oh, who is that? And it's just like, some kid looking for his mom. And then immediate cut to Amber. And so I was like, oh, is her real name Maggie? Is that her real name? Or is Maggie an alias that she gave to this kid so that he doesn't know what she actually does for a living and like what she actually, who she's associated with? Like, what's
Yeah.
going on? I don't know. But I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued on this storyline.
Okay.
And she's just watching Eddie dive into a pool preying on a 17-year-old. That part is not ever going to make sense to me.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. Meanwhile, Bill's at the party and he's walking to the back and there's a group of people watching two people have sex and, oh, look, it's Bill's wife again. And she tells him to shut up. He is embarrassing her. And, Bill walks away pissed. Fair enough.
Yeah.
And Kurt shows up and he's like, oh, what's wrong? And Bill explains and he's like, yeah, listen. And I was like, perfect of just like, yeah, I don't really care about your problems. Here's mine, right? Kurt wants to get some new zoom lenses and potentially some new lights and everything for the shoot tomorrow. And Bill's just like, look, I think Jack wants minimal. And Kurt's like, well, you do know that there's a difference between minimal and, sometimes with minimal, there's a lot of photography and people don't always understand that. And, Bill understands this and he's like, look, Jack wants minimal, not natural, but minimal. And Kurt's just like, look, I just want to get each picture its own look. And Bill's just like, look, can we talk about this later? And Kurt's like, why? Do you have somewhere to be? And he's like, no. Yes, no, not really. But then he points out that his wife is having sex with some dude in the middle of a driveway while a group of people are watching. I apologize if my, entire brain isn't here right now.
Yeah.
Right? And Kurt's, kind of being a bit of an ass. And he's just like, okay, fine. Like, I just wanted to talk about the photography of the film. Shouldn't they have talked about this before? It's the day before the shoot.
Well, maybe it's more kind of like less planning, I suppose, back in those days. Who knows?
I don't know. But like, if you're spending 20 to 30K before you shoot something, you should probably have everything put together before you shoot something.
True. I guess there's a lot that goes on in behind the scenes,
right?
I suppose.
Don't see it. I don't know. This just seems like poor planning on Kurt's part.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, Bill's justified in my opinion. And so Bill walks off. Kurt seemingly goes and joins the group that is watching Bill's wife. Meanwhile, man in the nice suit is walking with a purpose. I don't know what this purpose is, but he is walking with a purpose.
Right.
And he's looking for something. And they open a door. Colonel's with them as well. So is Jack. And Colonel's lady friend is in a room with the guy who gave her coke. And he's like, I think she's sick. She has blood coming out of her nose and is passed out. No der. Sick, right? For anyone that's listening audio only, sick is very much in quotes. So, dude is not sure if she's breathing. And he's like, I don't know. Maybe she did too much coke. And the colonel tells Johnny, who is the man in the suit, we learn his name. He's like, look, take care of this for me, Johnny. Take her to St. John's, drop her off in the front. Don't let anyone see the limo. Meanwhile, the guy starts crying because the girl OD'd. And at least I'm thinking this is why he is crying. And this is where I had a question. You've seen Friends, right?
Yeah.
Great. Is this the same guy that plays like Tad or someone in Friends? It's the young guy that Rachel dates for a while.
Yeah. What's the character's name?
I think it's like Taz, something like that.
And what's the character in Boogie Nights' name?
I don't know. I just called him Coke Guy.
Coke Guy. Maybe.
I'm not sure. It might be the same person.
Okay. I can't find on Wikipedia the most reliable source.
Okay. I mean, look, Wikipedia is where I go for a lot of stuff.
There you go. It's always useful.
So, yeah. Eddie Cahill. That would be the actor. If it is the same guy, it is Eddie Cahill.
Oh, he's in it. Yes, it is that guy. It's the same guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was right.
Yeah, no, it is the same guy. Tag. Yeah.
Oh, Tag. Okay, sure. Yeah, I didn't fully remember his name. And if he's in it or not. But good to know. Good to know that he is in it. It is the same guy. Lovely. So, he's crying and the colonel's just like, why are you crying? What's going on? And he's just like, dude, this is twice in 2 days that a chick has OD'd on me. And I love the colonel's response of just, well, you think you ought to maybe think about getting some new shit.
True.
Just like, he's just like, okay. And the Cope guy is just like, yes, sir. And, he's still crying. Johnny slaps him to get him into his senses. And they pick up the girl and they carry her out the back door and into the limo. This is as far as I have seen.
Okay.
I legitimately don't know anything else that happens in this film.
Right. Okay. So, yeah, it's hot parties.
Yeah, I mean, it's time for my prediction. I think what's going to happen is most likely Eddie is going to become a huge star in this industry.
Yes.
He is going to go on to make a lot of money.
Yes.
But then there will be something that causes his downfall. I have a feeling it's going to be drugs start causing the downfall of the industry. Potentially he gets into some legal trouble as well because of the drugs. Meanwhile, on plot B over here, I don't think that Amber is ever going to meet her son.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to happen.
Okay.
Those are kind of the 2 plots that I've got going on. Okay. Eddie's going to become a huge star, hit drugs, fall off, chaos will ensue. Amber is going to just keep trying to meet her son, never going to meet her son. Or the other option for Amber is that she meets her son and the son tells her he wants nothing to do with her because the son learns who she is.
Right. Okay.
I don't think she has a happy ending.
Okay.
Yeah. I appreciate that you can't say a whole lot other than okay.
Yeah.
So
I'll let you cover. Yeah.
That's where we're ending this episode. Jack, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure.
Yeah. Absolute pleasure having you. If people want to keep up to date on some of the projects you may be doing out over the pond over in London, how can they do that? How can they keep up to date?
I am at Jack Feb27 FEB27 on Instagram. Post random stuff. Also, on this theme, if there are any films, if anyone has a very niche interest in films pertaining to the porn industry, there is another film called King Cobra that is about kind of another version of the porn industry, but like it's gay, which is kind of interesting. There's one that's called Lovelace, which is about Linda Lovelace, who's a very famous porn star from the 70s as well. So there you go. There's lots of films on the topic.
Okay, well, there is the information. We will link the Instagram page of Jack's in the description. We ain't linking the other stuff.
No,
we will link Jack's Instagram down below in the description. Jack, thank you so much for joining.
Pleasure.
Listeners, thank you so much for listening. Be sure to catch us. New episodes come out every Wednesday. Flip the Scripts, which is all about adaptations, every Friday. And Seattle Across the Pond, which is about the important things in sports, is every other Thursday. So be sure to catch all of those here on Co-op Forge or wherever you get your podcast. And until next week, I'll catch y'all later.
Bye.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for listening to this episode of Post Finale. Post Finale is created, hosted, and produced by me, Ankit Madhira. Our editor is Pranav Nair. The music is by Ankit Madhira and Megan Hutcherson, and the art is by Jarid Rother. If you are all enjoying this episode and want to gain access to more bonus content, you can do so by heading over to patreon.com/coopforge and signing up for any of the tiers. You get loads of different bonus content, such as notes and commentary that we have as we're watching the films, as well as some bonus audio, some bonus videos, and ad-free episodes, early access if we get them done early, and different things like that. All of that can be found at patreon.com/coopforge, and that's patreon.com/co_opforge. If you want to help out the show in a non-monetary way, that's great as well. Tell a friend about the show. Just reach out and be like, hey, you love films, or hey, you need an excuse to watch some more films. Check out the show called Post Finale. The host is an actor, and he's funny and silly, confused most of the time, but they have interesting discussions about some popular films that I think you would really enjoy. It really does help us out a lot. Be sure to talk about us on social media at Post Finale Pod on Instagram and Facebook. And you can also follow us at Co-op that's CO_OPFORGE on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And there we post content not just from Post Finale, but also from the other shows hosted here on Co-op Forge, which are Flip the Scripts and Seattle Across the Pond. So a lot of fun things can be found over there on our social media. It really, really does help us out a lot. Thank you to everyone who has already done this. Thank you to everyone who will do this in the future. It really does mean a lot to us, and it helps us create better content for you, the listeners, as we grow. It really does help, and thank you so much for listening to this episode of Post Finale, and I can't wait until next week. And until then, I'll catch y'all later.